So one day, my 5-year-old son, who I never explicitly taught to read, comes home from kindergarten with a book in his hand, and he points to me at a word, and he says, "Dad, it can't be like that." For the first time in my adult life, I experienced the confusion a verbally dexterous, bright young mind is having as they encounter this code. The time I wrote a paper, I said, you know what? In the days of old, when we had no choice but to print things in a way that the characters once printed were dead, or because of the cost efficiency, we couldn't make 25 variations of a letter A, that the printer could change in and out. But with desktop publishing, we got a whole lot of new dexterities that we could, my original idea was, we could change the dimensional presence of a letter without changing its character recognition features in stepped ways so that it tells you which of its possible sounds it's actually making in any word you're looking at, right? So we could make the letters visual appearance variations cue you to their sounds as you were reading to knock out the letter sound confusion, which is at the core of stuttering up reading minds, right? So I wrote a paper about that, and I shared it with about 1,000 educators in the time. They all thought I was from fucking Mars. They just... And I kind of gave up on it after, I thought it was important, but after putting it out there, and I was busy with other stuff, and I helped my son get through the reading thing by understanding where his confusions were, and just being able to listen to him read, and when he started to stumble or stutter, be able to interject and cue him with my voice as to which of those letters he was stuttering on, and then off he would go. So he took off. 2 weeks later, he was reading like a rocket. No concern, and I forgot about reading for a while.
Wow. How old was he? 5. Was he
5.
Kindergarten?
Yeah.
Amazing. And then it came back because what you were speaking about was the beginnings. I'm assuming the beginnings of what is Olson. Yeah.
No, that's much later. No.
Oh.
Anyway, I was working on, I'm going to skip over a big part, 10 years later now, right?
Yeah.
I've got a daughter, and she's now 5 years old. She had some speech issues when she was younger. And she hit school, and me and her mother are in this kind of differencing. This is where I meet Gary, because he originally came in through her. And I recognize my daughter's problem. She goes to a preschool that teaches her in a different way than kindergarten does and first grade does. But by the time she gets to kindergarten and first grade, she's having all the problems my son had with the bizarre confusion, but she's got an auditory memory processing deficit, which means that even if she works out the word in sentence 1, she experiences it again in sentence 2. She's got to start all over again. She can't remember that she did it.
Right.
And I just watch her start to die. Shame out. I've got, video of her at that time. It's just I can't tell you. And that changed my life. Just to show you how the universe works, there's an interesting little side story that kicks this in Children of the Code off. She's right when we're starting to recognize that she's got a problem, and I'm starting to come out of my other universe and focus again on reading. We're at a garage sale, and I'm off in one corner, she's in another corner. She comes up to me with this book. She hands it to me and says, "How about we read this together, Daddy?" And it's King Arthur and His Noble Knights by John Steinbeck. John Steinbeck, I said, wow. And I opened the first part of the book up, and it says, "Some people there are who, being grown, forget the horrible task of learning to read. It is the hardest thing a human being ever does, and they have to do it as a child." That's its first paragraph.
Wow.
He goes on to describe how, despite becoming a Nobel Prize, for author, right, for literature, how he grew up just terrified. He thought letters were the most cruel, inhuman inventions ever in history, until he accidentally stumbled across a manuscript of Morte d'Arthur from the 15th century, original King Arthur in Old English, which for some reason made sense to his mind, and because the code cohered, he took off.
That's great. That's. Yeah. I mean, it sort of chokes me up. And again, because it's I'm seeing your daughter and I'm seeing myself. That struggle, which was just. Yeah.
Fortunately, at this point in time, Gary comes into my life a lot more, and my work on learning up to this point has been all these dimensions we've talked about, and I've been very concerned about emotions, but I've never really given it the kind of granularized thought that Gary would bring in as we started to talk about shame and shame's role, and as I started to witness this happening in my daughter, right? So now I'm more concerned with how this artificial confusion is causing her and millions of kids like her who are struggling. They may not have the auditory memory processing deficit as some kind of a basis. They may be unready for any number of other reasons that we could talk about ad nauseum, right, as far as early life learning trajectories, preparing them for the challenge. But that what we're talking about is children losing faith in learning.